So let's talk about Midwest FurFest history and why it's important that we talk about it right now. In talking with furries from all over for the last couple of years, I came to realize that for a lot of people, Midwest FurFest is something that has always been around. It's just something that is, and it operates in kind of quirky and often counterintuitive ways. And I realized I kind of took it for granted that everybody knew about the history of Midwest FurFest and how it evolved and how we came to operate the way that we do. So I wanted to give everybody kind of a brief summary that I hope will kind of give a little bit more insight into the inner workings of the organization. I want to preface this by saying that even though, yeah, I was there from the beginning, I absolutely wasn't the only one. Datahawk, Robert King, Wild Kitten, Cheetah, and Brendan Lonehawk have also all stuck around since day one, and they continue to work really hard for the organization, and absolutely their efforts are always appreciated. Like any living history, it can be told from multiple points of view, and how I saw things may not have always matched how others saw it, and that's okay. That's how history works. I will never say that this is the authoritative version. It's only what I've seen over the years. So with that preface, once upon a time, there was a science fiction convention called DuckCon. It started back in 1992 in the western suburbs of Chicago, and the name is a shortening of DuPage County Convention, which you may not have realized. Excuse me, in 1994, a guy by the name of Robert King, you might have heard of him, started a furry programming track, and I think I have that date right, Robert. The track grew quite popular, and over the next 4 years, track kind of grew and grew and grew. And in 1998, the furries counted for roughly a third of the attendance, if Wikipedia is to be believed. This caused a bit of a friction and thoughts about what the future may hold for the furries. And so, okay, no, we're not really going to do that. But in March of 1999, a group of about 7 or 8 people sat in Robert King's living room and talked about creating a new furry convention. Not long after, following a discussion of names, Midwest FurFest was born. Now, a convention needs a parent corporation, since the event itself is not a legal entity. When you start signing contracts with hotels, opening bank accounts, and purchasing insurance policies, you need a permanent legal entity. And thus, Midwest Furry Fandom Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, was created. Now, you need a few items of paperwork to create a nonprofit organization, a corporation, in the eyes of Illinois and for the Internal Revenue Service. For Illinois, it's relatively easy. You just need to file articles of incorporation with the state. But for the IRS, you need to submit bylaws to get your nonprofit status approved. Because we were starting from scratch, we took DuckCon's bylaws, kind of filed off the serial numbers, and we submitted that. Now, why that matters is that as part of DuckCon's history, there were instances of problems between the corporate board of directors and the event, and so their bylaws were written such that there was a very clear delineation between what the role of the board was and what the responsibilities and the limitations were regarding the convention itself. Midwest Furry Fandom's bylaws have been revised and updated many times over the last 23 years. But the central ethos has always remained the same. The convention and the board of directors are two separate things connected in extremely limited and specific ways. So let's start with the board of directors. In its most basic form in the state of Illinois, the board of directors must have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. It can then have as many or as few board members as they deem appropriate, and they clearly state in the bylaws. There are a couple of other, now over the years, a couple of other corporate level positions and entities have evolved within Midwest Furry Fandom. You have the vice president of contracts, who bears responsibility for oversight and negotiation of multi-year and future contracts agreements, and insurance. You have the Vice President of Operations, who facilitates coordination between the convention and the board in matters that affect ongoing operations year over year. Additionally, there are two corporate departments. You have Human and Critter Resources, and they report to the board president. Their job is pretty clear, I think. And you also have Software Engineering and Infrastructure, which reports to the VP of Operations. They're responsible for the technical backbone of the convention, SSO, Atlassian, Google Suite, RAMs, etc. So we currently have 11 board members. As often happens, board members can wear multiple hats within the organization. So in addition to serving as board president, Cheetah is also VP of Contracts. Woody is VP of Operations, and Piper is the Director of Human and Critter Resources. Software Engineering and Infrastructure is currently without a director. And if you think this might be something that you'd be interested in, please contact Woody at woody@furfest.org, who is eagerly awaiting your email and didn't even realize it. Then we have the board's interaction with the convention, starting with the convention chair. Per our bylaws, the board of directors elects a chair 15 months prior to the convention that they will be chairing. If they're not already a member of the board of directors, the chair then becomes a non-voting member of the board of directors for the duration of their term. Once selected, the chair has full authority to structure the convention however they want and place whoever they want in leadership roles. The board has no say in these decisions. The board's sole discretion over the convention is through the chair, and that's it. Now, that's all in the abstract. In practice, the chair has the boundaries of culture and tradition to work within. Additionally, if they do something that everyone disagrees with, everyone can walk. That's the nature of a volunteer organization. Likewise, there are always conversations that take place between the board and the chair, informal conversations, and board members are always free to express their opinions. Additionally, it's not uncommon for board members to serve in convention leadership roles as well as be on the board of directors. That's the case this year for two of our vice chairs, Rama and Woody. So what does this all look like in execution? As a rule of thumb, if something affects multiple years, then that is the responsibility of the board of directors. And examples of this include contracts, policy decisions, and corporate governance. Additionally, membership revocations, aka bans, are decided upon by the board. If something is only for 1 year, then that is up to the convention chair. And that would include staffing, the convention organization, who reports to whom, and most convention decisions. There are, of course, exceptions. For example, contracts that affect both the current and future years are handled collaboratively by the chair and the board. If someone has concerns about a department, corporate departments notwithstanding, the final authority on that is the chair. With that, let's talk about the organization of the convention itself. When we first started out, it was just the chair and the department heads, and that worked great, mostly, for the first decade or so. And as we grew larger, though, that became too many people reporting to just one person. So in 2012, we created leads, which at that time consolidated groups of departments under each lead. At that time, though, and we were running lean enough on staff that we didn't have the luxury of individuals dedicated to the lead positions. So each lead had a department of their own to run in addition to overseeing other departments. That was a difficult situation and wasn't really tenable, unfortunately. So in 2017, we realized, obviously, yeah, the lead situation there wasn't going to work. So we moved to the organization that we have right now. Where some departments, usually of a similar mission, are grouped under a lead and who is dedicated as just a lead. That is all that they do. Other departments as well as leads report directly to a vice chair, and that's all they do. They're just a vice chair. Vice chairs report to the chair, And of course, the chair reports to the board, but we've already covered that. So that brings us to Midwest FurFest 2022, represented by this simple org chart. Well, sort of simple. You can examine this in detail on the wiki by clicking on the master staff directory link from the wiki main page when you sign in. As has been observed in 2019, we had more staff than people who attended the first Midwest FurFest, and we're likely to be at similar staffing levels for this year as well. So that is how we got here over the years.